back with another episode on the Manifest University podcast. Very excited for this episode, sitting here with Mr. Ben Telford. When we first started, or like on this journey, probably like what? Lens 2000 and what? 14, 15-ish?
Me included or just you?
Yeah, no, like when I first met you, like
Would
for
it-
that one shoot.
It would have been 2018, I think.
2018?
2017, 18, yeah.
And then since then, you've kind of just taken off, a lot of it started with the music video kind of stuff. And then now you're doing your own documentary. One day probably featured films, bro. 2024, how's your year been so far?
It's been good. It's been good. I can't complain. The main focus kind of coming into the year was finishing off the documentary that I've been working on about the history of hip-hop within Ottawa. So in February, got to premiere that at the Mayfair Theatre. That was a pleasure. Kind of brought the whole city out and got to enjoy that. And then now for the public release, that'll be coming out quite soon. By the time this is out, I'm sure it'll be out on YouTube. So that's been the main focus, and that's been a lot of fun just to see it come to fruition after a year plus of working on it, and getting good feedback, getting some interesting criticism too. Like it's been a very rewarding process. So I'm glad that that's out the way, and now I'm starting to reset and figure out what the next projects are, what the next moves.
Right. And it's been a crazy journey, bro. Like, again, first time I met you back in 2018, we were on set shooting some dancing video, and now you're doing a lot of big things. Like, let's go back to when you first picked up the camera. What kind of sparked your interest to start filming, and how did you progress into music videos?
So, like all the way back, very first time?
I want it all, yeah.
Okay. It's funny because that's one of my most vivid memories from a very young child. Like I was probably, I don't know, maybe I was 5 or 6 or 7, but I don't remember that much from that point in my life, as most people wouldn't. But I do vividly remember watching a movie with my family, and suddenly it clicked in my head how film actually worked, how video worked, that it was just a series of photos. Usually 24 photos a second, essentially. Yeah. And I knew we had this point and shoot camera. Like my family just had this old, I think it was like a Canon, I don't know what it was called, but I knew we had that. And so I asked my dad, how does that work? Like, can you do video on that one as well, or is it just photo? And he showed me how to work it. And I didn't have anything to film really. I was a young kid, so I just started filming my Lego characters, and I would do stop motion. I would even do live action videos where I'm moving the pieces myself. I'm making the sound effects, and it was terrible, but it was just very enjoyable to me. And I was just amazed at how I could watch these movies, and then it was I was doing the same thing. And so I did that on and off in the years that followed. Whether it was stop animation, whether it was sports videos or skits with my friends. But it was essentially the one phase that I never grew out of. So even by the time I got to high school, 10 years later, it was still something I was doing on the side. And although it was far from being a paying job or a career at that point, it was still something that I was kind of known for. People knew that I liked to, at the very least, just mess around with the camera. And it would have been, I guess, grade 11 or 12 in high school that a friend of mine was making music, and he knew I did video-related stuff, and he asked me if I'd ever considered doing a music video. And it hadn't crossed my mind. I was just doing sports stuff at the moment, filming games, making highlight reels, that sort of thing. And so I showed up one night just in our neighborhood. We shot a video, put it together, and they loved it. And that was my first time really shooting something for someone else. And I guess it just kind of sparked something in me where I was like, okay, I don't have to, I don't just have to shoot videos for myself, because the whole time I was just coming up with an idea, not because I wanted to do that idea, but just because I wanted something to film. I wanted something to create. So that opened the door for being able to create for other people. And, I did a couple more music videos for them, started posting ads on Kijiji, doing free work, and then eventually making $50 here, $100 there. And that was just a snowball effect. You start investing in equipment, your name just gets out there more and more. So yeah, essentially started from that moment where I realized how a camera worked to a very, very gradual progression over 15 plus years since then, that now it's my full-time job.
Right. And what would you say is like from that moment, did you think that you would make it this far? You said 15 years messing around with the camera. You mentioned you just came back from Africa not too long ago. Like watching that movie with your parents up until now, like did you think all of this was possible or?
No, not at all. It's kind of just stage by stage. It's all just caught me by surprise. Like even when I finished high school, I'd been doing a bunch of videos at that point, still early on, but I was like, I couldn't believe that would even be a career path. I was like, yeah, it's just a hobby. I went to university for a year, started studying, and after that year, it was just like, no, this is actually something that you could pursue. It's worth giving it a shot. But no, it was so far from what I thought was possible and where I thought I would end up. I think if I told that young version of myself now what I'm doing, he wouldn't be able to believe it.
Right. And what did you take in university? Did you finish university? Did you drop out?
No, drop out. I studied a year of human kinetics at Ottawa, which was another passion of mine, something I was interested in. And I chose to study it because I knew that I wasn't confident enough in the visuals at that point, coming out of high school, to really pursue it. But I also wasn't just going to take a gap year and just do nothing. So I was like, yeah, that seems like a good option. Got accepted. Did that for a year. And by the time the first year was over, I'd turned down enough video projects because I was busy studying that I was like, no, I can't keep turning these down.
Right.
The studies will be there if I want to come back to them, but these opportunities won't necessarily. So yeah, I decided to, at that point, take a break, which turned into, I guess, 6 years of break.
Nice.
And will probably continue to be a break.
Nice. And what did your parents say while you were in school, dropped out, haven't been back for 6 years? Were they in your ear kind of pressuring you to go back or kind of just let you go freely to explore this career path?
Yeah, I mean, they've always been supportive. I think it was probably a bit of a surprise when I first said that I wanted to stop my studies. And at the time, I don't think I did a great job explaining what my game plan was. I was probably kind of nervous to let them know. So to them, it might have just been like, yeah, I'm just going to take a break and just shoot some videos. And maybe not. Maybe I did a better job. But to me, like, that's kind of how I came across. And so I think at the time, they were maybe like, give it a go, see how it goes. But they weren't against it or anything. They weren't pressuring me to stop. But I think within a year or two, as things picked up and I was given like my first chance to really do it full time for more than just the summer essentially, then I think they started to see that it was working, and I was building my clientele and my skill set and all that stuff.
Right. And obviously you've connected with a lot of different artists from Ottawa, Toronto, and probably all over that I don't know about or many people don't know about. Like, how did it start transitioning from the city and then you reaching out to people in Toronto or people reaching out to you from Toronto? I believe a few years back when I believe it was it Houdini that you were supposed to connect with? Out of Toronto. Somebody passed away, and then you shared a screenshot that how you guys were supposed to connect, whether it be in Toronto or LA. You remember that?
I'm not. No, I not specifically. I mean, I know. I'm trying to think. In terms of like the States, I know before FTG Metro passed away, I know he had some he had some text conversations back and forth with like little TJ and those artists. But I never had any work with Houdini.
It was somebody passed away, and then he reached out to you through DMs or whatever, and then you posted the story on like your screen. I don't know if you remember that, but it definitely was you for sure.
Yeah, no, I'm interested to go back to my archive now. I can't think of who that was.
So, who was your favorite artist that you've connected with? Obviously, you've built some really dope relationships with people in the city. You've helped like push them. Obviously, visuals is a big part of it. You were once working and still work with Two Time. Now he's signed. Like, how did that relationship start from way back when?
Yeah, I mean just building relationships with artists just in general. That's been very easy because as a creator, your work speaks for itself. So it's easy to just put your stuff out there, and then people will see it.
Close that laptop. No, keep going, keep going.
Yeah, so people will see it, and they reach out to you, and so that's been enjoyable to just be able to build so many different relationships. I think with Two Time in particular, that was very cool to see him, grow to the point that he is now. Obviously, primarily because of his talent. He's a hardworking artist. He's got that raw talent. He's got that swag. He's got that style. He's got his own sound, and so I think that has brought him to where he is now. But I think it's also a result of the team he has behind him. Guys like Thrilla, who got on board with Two Time's career early on. I remember we were shooting an interview with Two Time, and Thrilla was saying how he had this kind of vision for Two Time, just in a way that he could assist Two Time to maximize his potential, get opportunities in the States and whatnot. And this was probably maybe 2019, and fast forward 4 years, 5 years, all of those things at that moment that Thrilla was talking about have come true as a result of Two Time's hard work, and as a result of guys like Thrilla and Z and Sean who have poured into his career. So I think Two Time's a good model in the city for an artist who has stuck to it and who has also been able to build a strong team to get him to where he is now.
That was another person that I met with a couple of months back, Sean Frost.
Yeah, good guy.
Which was, I never heard of him until he was brought to my attention. Obviously doing a lot of big things, but even when I reach out to you sometimes, like, not as of late, but like to do videos and stuff like that, I notice you're very particular in who you work with. There's something that you said is like, okay, it has to match kind of what I'm trying to build around. So what is those things that you're looking for, whether it's with artists or new clients or new projects? Like, how does that formulate in your head from, okay, I'm going to take this on, or probably not at this moment?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult balance at sometimes, because you don't want to come across like stuck up, or you don't want to act Hollywood. But at the same time, there's value in recognizing that you have a certain skill set with a certain type of content, and if you have a good working relationship with the artist, or you just like the way they move, like the way they work, it's just always going to result in a better project. So I think I definitely have my own style, my own way I like to shoot and way I like to edit. And if the client has references that match that, if whatever they're pitching to me matches that, if their past work matches that, then that's like a great sign. But also, like, if it comes to music videos, sonically, like, am I feeling the song? Because if I'm feeling the song, the brainstorming is going to happen automatically. The ideas are going to be flowing, right. And it's just going to be a better look for myself and for the client. Because if I don't like the song, the ideas aren't really going to be there. And there might be another videographer out there who does like the song, who would give a way better final product to the client. So yeah, I think I just want to be on the same wavelength, visually, creatively, professionally, and and like the concept of the music or whatever I'm working on, so that I can enjoy my work and so that they can get the best project and final product at the end of the day.
Right. And what are some things that, like, 2024? I know. Let's get into the trip to Africa. You hooked up with obviously someone who's well known in the city. Like, talk about how that started. Obviously, they probably know who you are of all the content that you've put out. But now you're traveling with them. You're creating mini docs for them. Talk about that experience.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, big shout out to Jesse Lucetta. He's a hometown hero for sure, and I only met him a few years ago, and he kind of, I guess, knew of me through work that I'd done for other guys he grew up with, and just saw my name bubbling in the city a little bit, and I was aware of him obviously through his football endeavors and his stuff off the football field as well. So I think the first time we worked together was when he got drafted. We put together a documentary piece about that. And then there's been other content we've created since then, but the big trip recently was to Lagos. So we went with him and a couple other people, another NFL player, and that was a very special time. It was an honor to be there. Got to see the scenery of Nigeria. Got to meet people, who in the sporting world, in the political world, and just other, random people. Just get to see what life is, see what the people are like over there, eat the food. And as a creative, every time that I'm in a completely different place, it's just a whole new world to work with. It's a whole new canvas to paint on, whereas my Ottawa canvas has been painted on so many times that it gets a little tricky to figure out where some new locations are or what some new ideas are. But yeah, being out there was amazing. It was humbling, and I look forward to doing more stuff like that.
Right. And it sounds like, you're kind of taking it month by month. Obviously, you have your calendar, booked out. What is kind of the end goal for you when it comes to content creation, whether it's music videos, movies, docs? Like, obviously, everything's going to change from time to time, but, like, do you have that North Star for you when you're creating these things and these projects after project? Like, what does that look like for you?
I think the North Star is being not limited at all in terms of what I create and what I take on by the financial side of things. Because
what do you mean by that?
The projects that I think have the most potential, are the most creative, actually push me as an artist the most, often end up being the ones that pay the least. And so I take those on because creatively I think it's important, but you can't just take on only those, especially if they're paying the least, because you got to make some money at the end of the day. So if I can reach a point where other avenues of my business, whether it's selling digital products, whether it's having certain slightly less creative endeavors that are a bit more lucrative, if I can have that stuff going on to the point where then the remainder of my time is dedicated to whatever creatively I'm drawn the most to, that's really the goal, because then I can show my best work, and I can give the opportunity to other people who have no budget but maybe have the best ideas to actually bring those ideas to life.
Right. And you talk about different avenues for your business. Obviously, you have holding the camera, shooting videos, producing them, digital products. Talk to, like, the younger artists coming up who think that you can only make money just off of a camera. Like, when did you start diving into different avenues, and have the other avenues been as successful as actually picking up the camera?
It's funny because last time I did a podcast, they asked, it wasn't that question, but something about giving advice to the younger generation. And my mom always makes fun of me for it, because she's like, Ben, you're 23. What are you doing talking? You're the younger generation. Right. But no, I mean, it has been a number of years now that I've been doing it. I think it was during COVID that I really started trying to do other stuff, other than just shoot, edit all the time for clients, because I couldn't do a lot of that. It was a lot more limited. So, yeah, I think the digital products were the first thing. So I made some like title templates, VFX, put together like an aerial footage, stock footage pack that people could buy. And I wouldn't say that those have taken off. But there's a sale every once in a while that comes in that wouldn't have been there otherwise. And yeah, COVID was just the ideal time for it, because it was like, okay, if you can't go out and shoot, then you can't just sit at home and do nothing. So, creating that VFX pack was just me in my basement with my camera, like a few like prisms of glass, a lighter. Right. It's like, make it happen. And then I turned that into fire effects and flashes and optical flares. So you'd be surprised what you're able to achieve if you're forced to really work with the bare minimum. Right. And I now that COVID's over and I've been able to travel and whatnot, I probably haven't been doing quite enough of that bare minimum work. I should probably get back to the basics a little bit to figure out what other endeavors I can try.
Right, and how has that been? So now you're taking on new projects, you're seeing the world. Like, how do you stay grounded with all that? Obviously you're able to make a living. You say you're 23. You're around people, influential people. Like, how do you stay grounded through all that, being young, still have a long way to go? But, I'm sure you've seen and heard stories of people run into a little bit of success and they just turn into a completely different person, mm-hmm. right? So how do you stay grounded? Is it the team, the people that you're around? Like, what is that?
Yeah, I think within the work circle, within the business, definitely surrounding yourself around people who are creative and are talented and push you, and are also just stand-up human beings who will also get on the phone with you if you're going through something, who will just be there outside of work. That's important. And there's a number of people within the Ottawa creative circle that I have that relationship with, and so I think that's definitely very important. And then having the same types of relationships outside of work, with friends, with family, and faith. Like, I think all of those things are far more important than whatever you're shooting and editing on any given day. So yeah, having that stuff just never be pushed completely to the back burner is always the goal, because it's tough, when you're working on a big project or you're super invested in something. It's easy to just not make the time to see those people, or not make the time to do those other things that may seem insignificant, but are in fact the whole reason that you're able to function and able to be creative and be hardworking and fill all those roles that you fill.
Yeah, and you mentioned something that stuck out that you just said, faith. Like, what does faith look like to you? Are you the type to pray every day? Are you type to go to church? Like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, prayer, 100%. I think also being around people that share the same faith as you can learn from them. And also just being grounded in that, in the sense that you're not so attached to the ups and downs of the world, because it doesn't matter how many, successful videos you put out, doesn't matter how many dollars end up in your checking account. As cliche as it sounds, right. It's very true. Like, right. I've done these projects where I'm working on it, it's done, and then it's like, oh, it's just done. What's the next project? Right. That'll never actually fulfill you. That'll never fill that part in your soul. It'll fill that part in your ego, in your wallet, but life is a lot more than just ego and wallet. And again, I say it's cliche because it sounds so cliche, but it sounds cliche because a lot of people say it because it's true. And I've experienced that, and I know that it's more than just the work. So I do the work because I love it, but I make sure to try and keep those other things important so that there's a balance and so that I'm not drained. Because if I'm drained, then the work isn't even going to work.
Right. And obviously, you have a strong suit in what you do and the things that you're trying to go after in this world. What are some things that you're trying to kind of self-correct over the last few months, couple of years, that it's like, I really need to improve on this, whether it's like fitness, whether it's spending more time with family? Like, what are some conversations that you're having with yourself that, okay, I need to stop messing around and fix this in the next little while?
I mean, fitness was definitely something, not that I was like unfit, but there was a couple years there where just like the gym membership got canceled. It was like maybe some ball runs here and there, but like I was just working like a dog, which I don't regret because I got a lot accomplished. But yeah, you got to feed the body too and make sure that it's taken care of. So shout out to Javi. He's a photographer, a videographer, designer in the city, very talented. But he got in the gym, a year or two ago, and kept telling me, "Yo, Ben, get in here." So eventually, like a month ago, I signed up, and so I've been there with him, and that's been good. Physically, I think. Aside from that, I think the biggest thing that I need to improve on is just learning to say no. I don't like to disappoint people. I don't like to I like to people please a little too much. So I think in the business world, if you people please, then you're just going to overcommit, stretch yourself out, and then every little thing that you're doing is going to be done slightly worse because you're doing too many things. So that's a goal at the moment, and especially now that a lot of the projects I was working on for the past year or so have all kind of come to an end at the same time. That gives me a chance to be like, okay, you don't have the excuse now. You're not as busy. Now moving forward, be a bit more intentional about what you take on, and that way you can put your all into each project. You're not stretched too thin. Right.
And you talked about Javi. I see you sometimes work with guys like Fenty. I'm not sure who else you work with, but what is your thought process behind like collaboration and possibly building a team? Because, obviously as projects go on, it seems like you want to have your hand on every part of the project. Have you ever thought about like expanding a team where, let's say, some person strictly just taking care of the shooting and the editing, and then you just have your stamp on it? Or do you like to have your hands in it from start to finish?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been stubborn. I think people know that about me. I always like to do every part of the process because I like to do it my way, which I don't think is a bad thing. And then that way, if you're always doing this, the whole project, people know what to expect. It's not like there's a different editor each time, or it creates consistency, which I think people like and people come to me for. But yeah, you can't really scale like that. You can get better individually, but there's a lot of opportunities that you just miss out on, especially working on the documentary. That was a 90-minute film. I put like 1,000 hours into that, and it was a huge blessing. I'm glad that I was able to do it. Came out great, but at the same time, it was the biggest headache. I was so sick of it by the end, because it was just too much. Whereas if I had, and I did have help. I didn't do it all on my own, but for the most part, I did. But if I'd done that same project and maybe just had a whole different person to handle, the audio recording on set, I know a whole different person to handle logistics of organizing people when and where for interviews. If I had another guy to help out with lighting and just simple things like that, and maybe there's 2 editors, maybe I send it off to a colorist, I probably would have enjoyed the project a little bit more. Not that I didn't enjoy it, and I also would have been able to get in my bag a little bit more just on the creative side of things in terms of things like, shot composition or while on set. Ooh, I have this creative idea. Let's try this. But if you're worried about a million things, you're gonna like that creative idea might hit you, and you're just gonna disregard it because it's like that's too much.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, there's a couple guys in the city that I enjoy collaborating with when it makes sense, and I hope to be able to do that more, so that it can benefit us both at the end of the day. Like, you know, I think I can learn a lot from collaboration and definitely need to do more of it, but I'm stubborn.
Yeah, and talk about the project. Obviously, you know, it's about to release. You posted it not too long ago. Talk about the project and why you decided to take on a project like that.
So yeah, the project is City Limits, Ottawa's hip hop story. Comes out May 24th on YouTube, youtube.com/BenTelfordVisuals, and it is essentially a look at hip hop within Ottawa from the early 1980s until today. So who was involved? How did they grow the scene in this government city where art was never meant to thrive? You know, what were the challenges they faced? How did they overcome those challenges? Who were the key people? And I think the focus, if I'm honest, is on today's generation, because, you know, the guys from the 80s, they're not making music anymore.
Right.
So yes, their story, it's important to tell their story, and I did my best to tell some of their stories. Obviously, can't include everyone, but, you know, I tried to try and tell their stories, show how that transitioned into the 90s, into the early 2000s, up until today. The people who are on it today, who are working hard, trying to get their music out there. The goal was just to showcase them, get people to hear who they are, what their stories are, beyond just their single that's out on Spotify.
Right.
Because I've worked, you know, with a lot of artists, shot, you know, probably like over 100 music videos by now, if not 200, and I've just met so many incredible people, just with cool stories, with cool talents, who just haven't been able to really broadcast them. So if my documentary can even help a couple of those people,
Right.
you know, gain a new audience and just, you know, kind of stamp their spot within the city, then I think it was a success. And at the end of the day, I think it's a time capsule. Like, I think this film will be something that people will go back and watch in 10 years, in 20 years, because, you know, God knows where the music scene will be by then. It obviously changes all the time. So I think it'll be interesting for people to be able to look back and see such a comprehensive account of hip hop in Ottawa.
Right. And what are some of the things that you're seeing with like artists, whether it's in the city or Toronto or the States? You mentioned Two Time. He has the team around him. He has the swag. He has all that. What are some things that you think a lot of artists, especially in the city, are struggling with when it comes to not only being consistent but also successful as well?
I mean, there's definitely an element of it just being a difficult city because it's a government city, but I don't think that's a very solid excuse.
What does that mean, though? What does that mean?
Well, that I mean, I don't think it's a solid excuse, because if your work is good enough, it's gonna spread its wings and fly. It's gonna find its people.
Right.
But I think what that means is just like Ottawa. You know, it's a government city. The parliament buildings are here. There's government workers. There's not an emphasis on art, at least in the past. That sort of side of things is growing. But in the past, there hasn't been a huge emphasis funding-wise and just overall, like, interest-wise in art compared to other cities. But I don't even like to mention that, because I just think that's a cop-out. Like, if you want to make your work for you and you want to put it out there, work on it, put it out there, and make it happen. Like, there's no excuse location-wise.
Yeah, but do you think with the internet, like, can people even still say that these days?
Yeah, no, they can't. That's why I'm saying it's not a great excuse.
Yeah.
But there is an element of it. it's you can't completely disregard it.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that there's an element of that. I think there's also just like an entitlement with some people. I think some people feel like, you know, they see industry plants or they see people that blow up who, you know, maybe depending on your opinion don't deserve to or haven't put in the work or aren't talented or whatever, and they just feel like they feel like they feel entitled to success, to views, to notoriety, whereas no one's entitled to it. You got to prove yourself. You got to put in the work, and I think people maybe also struggle with just finding their own identity. You know, it's so easy to copy or, you know, just jump on a trend that's happening, but it's not going to do much for you if you can take the time to build from the ground up, build your own sound, your own fan base, your own identity. Then it's going to be a lot more fruitful, I think, in the long run.
Right.
Because then you're not depending on someone else's ideas to work for you. You're not depending on a trend to stay relevant so that you can stay relevant, because you created your own ecosystem of styles and genre and people and whatnot.
And speaking of styles and whatnot, you mind just closing that window, Kev? Just twirling it. You're in the hot seat, dog.
Yeah, I'm cooking.
Yeah. Speaking of just like different styles, bro, like who are some of the directors or cinematographers that you look up to when you started along this journey, and has it changed drastically? Are you still following the same people you were once you first started?
I mean, I was never a guy who's big on inspirations. Like, I never watched a lot of films. I still don't really watch a lot of films. I like to just create rather than watching other people's stuff. But I would say film-wise, like director-wise, Martin Scorsese. I was always a huge fan of his work. Big fan of like the old mafia movies and whatnot. Right. So I love his just style of shooting, and even just his dialogue on film as an art form. Just listening to him talk about it is very captivating. So I look up to him. I think in the music video side of things, director Kid Art, I think he's out of New York, but works all across the States. I love his style. He just has a very unique, grungy, just raw style. Right. So I would say those are the two main people that I've looked up to.
And what about artists? Like, who are you following, whether it's in the city, in the States, overseas? Like, who are some people that you wouldn't mind, shooting a music video for them or collaborating on a project?
That's a good question. I mean, for a while, my favorite artist was Dave East out of New York.
Shot that, did that.
Not a music video, but yeah, we shot with him. Did a concert recap. So that was like my Make-A-Wish kid moment. But yeah, I don't know. There's no one like. I mean.
Can we expect anything in the future? Like, did you guys get to? Obviously, he saw the video. Him and his people. Like, is there anything brewing up for the future or what?
Not currently, but you never know. I'm someone who just takes things one day at a time. So most of my biggest opportunities and biggest moments have just happened. They just show up one day, not as a result of just like luck, but you work consistently, and then those opportunities start to pour in. But yeah,
very political answers.
I work.
Very political answers. I like it.
I work, and then I let the work bring more opportunities to me. So we'll see. But I don't know. There's no like dream artists. I think the creative ideas and the concepts that someone brings to the table are way more important than who they are in the public eye.
Right.
Yeah. And
then, so what are some of like the biggest projects that are coming up? You just came back from Africa. Like, what are some things that, other than the film that obviously is coming out soon, what are some big projects that you have in the works that you don't mind just touching on real quick?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I was working on that documentary for so long that was the main thing, but my priority, I think at the moment, is still along those lines with the narrative work, documentaries and whatnot. I love storytelling. I love being able to go to new places and experience new things. So if I can do both of those things in unison, to me that's, a dream come true. So I wouldn't be able to give specific projects that are already in the works. There are some that are, they're not released. I can't really talk about them.
Right.
That sort of stuff, more along the lines of the documentary work, the storytelling, the narrative stuff. That's the goal. That's what I'm really passionate about at the moment.
And obviously, you're currently living in Ottawa. Is there any plans of like moving, or do you feel as though you can do everything that you need just working in the city?
I'm not opposed to leaving, but at the moment it makes the most sense for me to be here. And I like the size of Ottawa. I like that it's big enough that you can get work done here, but it's small enough that you can also stay out the mix. You
Right.
can, you can just get out the way. There's not a lot of distractions going on, and then all those bigger cities, all the New Yorks, the LAs, the whatevers, they're still there. You can still go visit
Right.
them, do your Dougie, get your work done, and
Yeah.
then come back to Ottawa
Yeah.
and just chill, friends and family, relax. So that's the model for me at the moment. But who knows what the future brings, and I'm open to whatever makes the most sense.
If you could choose, where would you go though? Tomorrow, you have to move. Where would you go?
Not North America. I don't know though. I don't know. I mean, I really enjoyed Africa. I don't know if I would want to go that far. But I'm also I'm a dual citizen. I'm Australian as well. My family's all from Australia, so I have
There you go.
lots of connections over there. So might end up there. Go shoot some surfing documentaries. Who
There you
knows?
go.
But yeah, I love Ottawa. So I'm here for the time being, and we'll see where I end up.
And are you still doing like a lot of music videos? Like, are you still trying to prioritize that and take on that as work, or are you more so focused on the docs and things of that nature? The reason why I ask is a couple people have asked me to kind of ask you and bridge the gap to, shoot multiple music videos. Is that still priority, or?
It's no. I mean, I would say the documentary style stuff is the priority at the moment. Just creatively is what I'm drawn to, and with the music videos, I find that it's just very easy to get burnt out with them. There's been long periods of time where that's all I'm doing, and it's just very repetitive. And especially if you're doing most of them within the same city, they all start to blend together.
Right.
Whereas if you're just doing one here and there, and there's more time between them, you can reset creatively. You can let fresh ideas come in, and then you're just putting out better content at the end of the day. So I think that's a better way to go about it for me. Obviously, there's a lot of people in the city making music, so that doesn't help my availability, and
Right.
people want to book, and if you can't book, then people aren't happy. But
So you can't book them no more.
I can't, maybe not to the scale that I was at
Right.
certain points, but yeah, it's still a service that I'm offering, but it's just not, it's tight,
Yeah. So
but it's all love.
So basically, the schedule for music videos is like you really have to be messing with the project to take it on. At this point, would you say?
Yeah, honestly, because I want to just take on a few here and there so that I can put my everything into them,
Right.
and put the best work out, and that, to me, that makes way more sense than putting out 20 music videos that are all mediocre.
Yeah. Okay. And speaking about music videos, obviously you've helped people like Two Time and Linda Sun. Talk about that relationship with you and Linda Sun. You damn near shot pretty much all of his videos at this point. Like, talk about that relationship, how it started, and where it grew to be today.
Yeah, I mean, I met him, I guess, 2020 probably, and he's just a good example of what I was talking about earlier, with wanting to work with people who are, are about their business, obviously, but aside from that, are just good people. You spend time around Lindeson, and he has fun. He cares about you as a person beyond just what service you provide.
Right.
He'll call you up after the shoot, see how you're doing. We'll go out to dinner. Like, he's just a good human being.
Right.
He's someone that I enjoy working with, but I also take a lot of gems from him just personally, just like in life outside of work. So that's made it very easy to work with him because I enjoy being with him. And then when the music itself is also well produced and is in its own lane, he's got his own kind of unique sound. That's even better because now it's, great guy, great music, great ideas. We kind of merge our ideas together. It's just been kind of a good fit. So we've done, a ton of videos together, have more in the works, and, bringing Two Time on board for 80s, the remix video that we did together, that was special because that was a video that probably wasn't going to get shot. It was a record that had been recorded and was just sitting, and they both liked the record, but maybe didn't fit with their rollout plans at the time. And I said, if I shoot the video for free and I take care of the production costs and stuff, we get to drop it on my channel. Can we make that happen? And they were on board, so
Right.
we put it together, and that's still one of my favorite music videos to this day. It's a lot of fun.
And then speaking of bringing on people to music videos, you also got to shoot for someone who's well known in the city, Lindeson, as well as Knight Lavelle, on a very popular music video that kind of, I guess you could say because from my perspective, Knight Lavelle before that didn't really collaborate with many people. You know what I mean? Especially in the city. So coming out with Lindeson on that record, and then you got to shoot it. What was that experience like?
Yeah, I mean, big props to Knight Lavelle for putting that together, and well, not putting that together, but being willing to collaborate in that way. Excuse me. And not only was it a musical collaboration, but visually too. We had Namix and Javi and myself on the visuals. Right. Two guys that I admire their work a great deal. So that was, that was just like, didn't feel like work at that point. We all got together, and while we were filming it, while we're creating it, we knew that it was gonna be a special release. It
Right.
was just like, the all-stars of Ottawa music, the all-stars of Ottawa videography. That sounds so egotistical,
No,
but
you're good,
but you
bro.
get the idea,
Yeah, you're good, bro.
we're all coming together.
Yeah.
6-man team, put the video together, and let it fly, and it was just a lot of fun. It was a pleasure to be a part of it, and that was my best performing video ever, views wise. So that's all I can say. Really, it was just a pleasure, and I'm glad we were able to put that together.
Right. And then speaking of, videos going on your YouTube channel, you have people like Cole Bennett who do like the behind the scenes, a lot of outside of just shooting. They have, I think, their podcasts and stuff like that. When it comes to social media, like what are your thoughts on, being up on the TikTok, YouTube, posting more frequently on Instagram? I saw that you took majority of your posts down and put it to 10 now. So like, what's your thought process when it comes to social media?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of change. Like a year or two will go by, and then I'm like, no, now I want to have this type of content on my page. So I'm a little bit too indecisive, and I'm also a bit of a perfectionist. So I'll put out a video, and then 6 months later I'll watch the post, and I'll be like, what's this doing on my page? Right. So that's an issue. I probably need to leave more stuff up, but I think I wanted to make sure that my page shows my skills as a cinematographer more recently. So that's made me make sure that every post that I'm putting out, it's not just for promotional purposes. It's not just, this video came out, go watch it. It's right. Like, if you're a client coming to my page, you don't really want to see promotion. You want to see the service that I provide.
Right.
So I want to make sure that every post is showing me delivering that service to the best of my abilities and in new and fresh ways each time. So that's the goal, social media wise. But I know that the behind the scenes, I know that the short form content, the TikToks, there's a lot of untapped markets that I haven't really been utilizing, but I have a bit of a hate-love relationship with social media. It's tough to be on there for more than a little bit of time. So that makes it a bit more difficult to put that extra content out. But that's where we circle back to like putting together a team. You don't always have to be the only person doing that stuff. So that's something that hopefully can come together in the future.
Yeah. Do you ever think that you're gonna be like teaching on YouTube or anything like that, or doing workshops and stuff like that, or not yet in your career? You're still figuring it out.
Definitely not yet. I feel like I'm still a baby in this. I'm still learning to walk. But if I get to a stage where I can share some of the things I've learned with people who are just starting out, I would love to, because I wouldn't be here without the people who, when I was starting out, they were already established and they shared those gems with me. And whether it's them directly sharing gems with me or me just like taking in content, YouTube tutorials, lectures, all that type of stuff, like that was very influential. So if I can be that guy, then I would love to later on. Yeah.
No, man, I do appreciate kind of just watching you grow from the outside, just watching from where you once started to, obviously you take your craft really serious, and I think everybody notices what you've done, not only for the city, and also advancing your career. Just for like accountability, where can we see Ben in the next 5 years, whether it's still doing production, doing docs, moving to Australia, just for accountability purposes, where can we see you in the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, you can see me on Netflix.
Let's go, talk your shit.
And you can see me just still loving what I do, still doing it, to the best of my abilities, maybe even doing it within my own facility. That's another dream of mine. But yeah, the long-term goal for me isn't do this now so that I can eventually do something else. It's just keep doing this and just keep doing it better and just keep enjoying it and just keep telling interesting stories and meeting new people. Because, picking up that camera when I was a kid at the time seemed so insignificant, but that camera is what took me to Africa.
Right.
That camera is what took me to LA and New York, and those are places that I wouldn't have been able to go otherwise. So I know that I'm doing the right thing right now, but I just got to make sure that I don't get comfortable.
Right.
Each project is never good enough. The next one will be good enough. So work on that one and then
for sure
keep the ball rolling.
For sure. And then to wrap things up, like, what is 3 pieces of advice that you'd give to the younger Ben, knowing what you know now, whether it's business, whether it's creativity, whether it's the group of friends you're surrounding with, whether it's life in general, like those conversations that you have with yourself that you reflect. Everything is a lesson, obviously, but what are some things that you wish you would have known before you got into this industry? 3 things.
Think about it. I need to think about it for a second.
Yeah, you got it.
3 things. I would say number 1 is fix your sleep schedule.
What does yours look like right now?
Mine's good now, but for a long time it was, it was all over the place, and it's not conducive to being productive and creative. I mean, it's nice to work all night and get an edit done, but then the next day you're just defeated. So that's a big thing.
7 hours of sleep, 8 hours of sleep, or what?
Yeah, 7. 7 I think is the average, but yeah, that's a big one for me. I think also when you're putting out work, especially if it's a representation of you and your business and your name, don't just think about how it's going to be perceived right now in time, but look into the future, especially if you're a young creator, because if you're 18 and you're putting something together, you're 18. You know, you're not really thinking that deep into, okay, what's the subject matter, what's the message. You know, maybe I didn't really care to think about it now, but if it's 6 years down the line, I might care, and that video is now uploaded and it is gonna have my name on it forever.
Right.
It's representing me forever.
Right.
So, yeah, just be cautious about that. Think about it more than just a quick second. You know, what am I putting out there? What's representing me? And is that gonna be what I still want representing me down the line? And third would just be have fun with it, because yes, you want to build a good business model where you can get paid so that you can stay afloat, but if you're not enjoying it, then you may as well just be doing something else, especially if you're in the creative world. Like, it's a lot of fun, so enjoy it. That'll lead to you being creative and achieving things that you wouldn't otherwise achieve. And, you know, follow the passion, follow what you love doing, and the money will follow also. So, yeah, have fun with it, go to bed early, and just be careful about what you put out there.
Right, and you talked about the schedule. Like, what does your day-to-day look like, you know, from Monday to Monday? Obviously, with bigger projects, it kind of changes, but like, what does your day-to-day typically look like?
It's so all over the place, because some weeks I'm just shooting all the time, some weeks I'm editing all the time, and some weeks it's a mix of both. But yeah, I mean, get up, breakfast, lunch and dinner, those are always important. And then yeah, so I can't even answer that. It's so all over the place. Like today, you know, I finished shooting at 2 a.m, so I got home, slept enough to function today, got up, now I'm gonna go to the gym, and then it's another nighttime shoot. So that's completely different than last week when I was just at home all day editing and emails and calls. So yeah, I don't think I have a good answer for that.
So what time, I guess your day just is all over the place. And would you, if you could have it in a perfect world, like what would your full day look like? Like if you had a team around you and whatnot, like would you be going to sleep at 9 o'clock? Wake up at 5 a.m.? Like, what would that look like?
Yeah, I mean, that would be the goal. Because I think those days when you wake up early and have slept enough, you can work till noon, and you've already really got a day's work done.
Right.
So now you can either just get way more done in the afternoon, or you can go catch up with a friend, go hit the gym, cook, do whatever. Whereas if you wake up at 9, 10, and then, you know, noon comes around and you've barely got the day rolling, it's just so demoralizing, and then, you know, it's the day feels a lot shorter.
100%. And to close things off on the Manifest University podcast, what is one thing that, you know, you would like to see more of when it comes to the Ottawa scene, being a government town? Like, what's that one thing that when your career is all said and done, that you have that stamp of impact? What would that be?
I would like to see more. I'd like to see more collaboration, which is funny coming from me, who always does stuff by myself. But maybe I need to take some of my own advice. Yeah, just more collaboration, because you know, if we're talking music and we're talking hip hop, which obviously I've worked in mainly with the music videos, you know, you look at the early days, you look in New York. Yeah, I'm sure there were like feuds and stuff going on and little beefs here and there, but there was a lot of unity there. And, you know, that's probably a large reason why that genre blew up and became so successful. You know, same story with other genres too. Like we were just in Nigeria, and, you know, Afrobeat is pretty much the biggest genre these days. And being in Lagos, you feel it. Like it felt like we were in the Bronx in the 80s listening to a block party. And that's, I think, because that's a city, a culture, a community coming together. And if we do more of that in Ottawa, it's impossible that that's not going to improve the creative community. And I think we are doing that. So I don't think that's to say nothing's going on. Do better, guys. But just like whatever we're already doing, let's do more of it. Let's come together and build together.
Right. And before I let you go, who are some people that people should be looking out for, specific to the creative scene, as far as artists, up and coming talent that you kind of keeping your eye on?
That's tough because I'm obviously going to forget people. But I would say visuals wise, I love what Growing Gone is doing. That's his artistic name. His name's Victor. He's incredibly talented, incredibly creative. Javi, that's my guy. I gotta give him love. He does a lot of great work and has more gotten into the video realm in the last year or two. I would say before he was just kind of known for photos and design, and he's really stepping out into the videos and has been putting out incredible work. So props to him. There's Through My Lens, photographer, had him at the documentary premiere. He's also doing video as well, but just incredible shots he's capturing. There's so many visual creators I can mention, but music-wise too, I think people like Izzy Rose, just incredible raw vocal talent. She's destined for big things. Lindison, I'm always gonna shout him out. That's my guy.
For sure.
And as well as the facilities and the organizations that do the work behind the scenes to help all these creatives function. Lens Studio is a staple.
Right.
BPM Studio, Viva, The Cave, even organizations. Mike, like these organizations, a lot of the time don't get the recognition because they're just supporting the entity that gets the recognition. But without that support, the entity wouldn't be where it is. So,
right.
Much love to all those facilities and organizations too.
There you go. There you have it. Another episode on the Manifest University podcast. We have Ben Telford.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you for stopping by and sitting down.
Appreciate you having me.
Until next time, we're out.